Everybody, and welcome back. Hopefully you've had the opportunity to grab a drink and talk to a few people in the various rooms. Fantastic morning so far, and we'll continue that as we introduce our next speaker, David Miller, who is the Chief People Officer for NHS Scotland, who's going to talk to us a little bit about starting the biggest job of his career during a global pandemic. So straight over to you, David, and thank you very much.
Okay, thanks very much, and good morning, everyone. As people have said, as Ainsley said, my name's David Miller, and I'm the Chief People Officer at the Scottish Government. This event is very exciting for me personally. It's my first time speaking at a national HPMA event, and it's an opportunity for me to share my experience about, as I said, starting the biggest job of my career at the start of a global pandemic. I'll also give a quick update of what I'm working on for the HR profession in Scotland, and also a bit of our strategic focus across health and social care, and hopefully cover that in about 25 minutes, and then have some time for questions. So I start off by going, as I've developed as a leader, I found that for me, investing in relationships, being true to my own values and empower others, has enabled me and the teams I've worked with to achieve some pretty impressive results over the years. That way of working, which traditionally has always been face-to-face throughout my career, was challenged when I started my new job. So I started the beginning of April 2020. On my first day, I arrived at St Andrew's House in Edinburgh, which is the headquarters in the Scottish Government. I spent 30 minutes at the reception as my arrival had not been formally passed through security. But thankfully, we were able to resolve that, and I went through to the workforce director on the ground floor, where I was met by two people, and normally mobbed in that place, but there was only two people there. There was probably only about 30 people in the whole building, and that included the army from there. On day one, I got my laptop and password access, and everything worked, so that was a good start, and I had some meetings pre-scheduled into my diary, which was great. But as no one was about, apart from two people, the information I was able to glean was slim. Not because they weren't helpful, it's just that they were really busy working with COVID and the whole country was in lockdown. I did meet with my boss on that first day and was tasked with writing a brief for the exec team and Scottish Government about the workforce situation in Scotland in relation to the staffing, the absence, and the workforce ability to cope with the demand that was put on at that time. Now, I can write a brief for an NHS exec team. I've done that throughout my career, and I know the format and the style they like. This was a new team, and with some very prominent figures that I saw on the television most days. So it was quite nerve-wracking. After a few moments of panic, I thought, what am I going to do? What would I normally do? I would normally go and speak to stakeholders. I'd ask them for information, and then I'd look to pull that together into a brief with the agreement of those involved to make sure that I was capturing all the necessary points. First problem I had with my approach is the two people that were in the office didn't have any of the information that I required. So I asked if I could see a copy of the org chart for the directorate, which I was given. I looked there, and then I had to phone call. And at that time, we had Skype. We hadn't moved on to Teams yet. So I was Skyping on a pretty dodgy connection with a lot of blurriness. But I managed to gather some information. I turned it into an 11-page report. I tried to be really thorough. I was, however, informed that no one would read an 11-page report. I was slightly crestfallen, and I was told I had to cut it down to 2 pages, salient points and bullets. I was determined to do a good job, however, and I wanted to be true to myself. So I did that, and it was well received, and it helped us on how we moved some of the focus moving forward. I started working from home later that first week, and I found myself thrust into the world of contact tracing and testing. This was fast-paced, with many meetings, tight timeframes, and constant political and media scrutiny. I worked virtually with a small team of about 3 or 4 who I hadn't met personally in person, and we did this. We briefed ministers in the government about the progress, and we worked really closely with our NHS boards and the HR teams within them. This small team that I worked with taught me how to write a brief for ministers and government, and that everything needs to be fact-based and it needs to be able to be evidenced and for FOI reasons. And also that some things can't wait for tomorrow, which was sadly sometimes my way. My board contacts were a source of information and support when we struggled. This kind of intense, fast-paced virtual network, we had to look out for each other. We did laugh. We were very stressed at times, but we did check in on each other to make sure we were there when help was required, and we did require that help. During that time, we set up a national contact tracing centre. We established new labs for testing regionally across Scotland, and we managed to be pretty innovative with some solutions we did there. We did it in timeframes we didn't think possible. And so when I look back, I'm very proud of what was achieved, and not just on me personally, because it wasn't just me, it was a whole team involved. But I look back and I'm really proud of that. However, when I also look back, those 6 months, first 6 months, were perhaps the toughest and most stressful time in my career. I had no induction. I was really naive. I didn't understand how government worked. I didn't understand how briefs are written or where I could actually turn for help. As I said, I found myself briefing ministers before they went on to Sky News or passing information for parliamentary questions. I was drafting responses at the weekend for the comms team, for newspaper and online articles. And that's me. I'm the Chief People Officer. Surely I should know how to do that. But this was in the height of the pandemic, and we just had to do the best job we could do, working long hours, 7 days a week. I couldn't have done it myself. The small team that I worked with at Scottish Government were fantastic. And the senior leaders in Scotland, we had to bond really quickly and form trust and relationships. We did have a shared purpose, which was trying to protect the people of Scotland. Did we make mistakes? Yeah. Would I do some things differently now? Yeah, I would, of course. It was a fantastically interesting, difficult time. And what it has shown to me is I think of myself as very social and friendly. I love to collaborate on projects, and I like to empower people because that's where I think we get the best from everyone. As I said, I normally did that face-to-face. That was my traditional way of working. It worked well for me. Now, my normal way of working changed overnight. I was in a senior role that I really wanted to make a difference in. It was my biggest job in my career. I didn't want to fail. I was putting stress on myself because of it. The easiest thing for me to do in that situation would have been to try and change myself. I think to fit into a mold that wasn't me. I took some bumps during that time, it's fair to say. When I chatted with the stakeholders in the service, I was honest about how busy things were, the timeframes we needed to deliver to, and why we were asking for the information or why we required things to be a certain way. But I always asked after their well-being. That's just important to me, and I care, which I think is important. For me, in times like COVID or other emergency situations, we can't just switch off our values. During these times, we'll be judged by our peers and how we were when things were at their worst, and not just on a normal day when everything's more manageable. I sit back 18 months later, it's still really busy, with a really tight, scary deadlines, and currently a sense of deja vu. But I'm calmer. I know where to go now. I know how the system works. I know what my role is in that system. And I also know what I can bring in that space and the difference I can make. I've doubted myself many times over the past 18 months. But things that kept me going were the support and positivity from the HR community, who were fantastic. I will never forget that. And I hope that I was and will continue to be a great support to them. I'm going to now share just a couple of things that we're working on in Scotland that I believe are really important for us. And some you will know because of where you're working just now, you'll have seen, and others you'll have heard about on the news. So I suppose the first thing to do is I've just established a project team to ensure that we further invest in development for the HR profession in Scotland. This project will look at the HR profession from entry level to director in Scotland, the skills required and how we can ensure everyone has equal access to development and opportunities. We'll do this in partnership with HR professionals, of course, within the service, CIPD, HPMA, and of course, colleagues within NHS England. I've just read over the newly launched People Plan, which I think is fantastic. And I have monthly calls with Tom Simmons, and we share information on what works, what's working for us during the pandemic. So I'm really keen to kind of continue to work closely to see where we can align and learn from as well. The other thing is we're also very close to publishing our new workforce strategy for health and social care in Scotland. This will be launched at the end of this year, and we've just concluded a really successful engagement programme across the health and social care to bring the strategy together. Our staff have been remarkable through the pandemic. I'm so grateful for their courage, their commitment and professionalism. The strategy will set the vision and direction for our work in growing and reforming the health and social care workforce at a time of great change and opportunity, to be fair. Key to growing and transforming our workforce is culture change. It's fundamental to providing the services that must adapt to be able to deliver continually improving, high quality, compassionate care. To respond to our current and future challenges, organisational cultures must be nurtured in parallel with the changes we need to do in our systems, our processes and our structures. Strong and effective leadership is key to drive and support the workforce. However, we must be clear with the culture we want to create from our leaders and throughout our organisations. Above all, I think what we've learned, certainly more through the pandemic, is how much we have to nurture and care for our workforce. I think some of our traditional methods through that time were exposed to be lacking, not through any badness, but through whether it was our traditional occupational health systems. And what we found is the support that our staff require is far greater, and we've invested heavily to help support that. All our workforce should experience wellbeing support, a meaningful job and attractive term conditions which reflect modern society. And so that is what our strategy will look to cover from there. So I hope you manage to read that when we do publish it from there. I can't share more because it's got some process still to go through. The other thing I just want to talk about was the National Care Service, which you might have seen on the news or mentioned on the news. It's a new service we're looking to establish in Scotland, and the consultation to establish this National Care Service closed on the 2nd of November this year. We received over 1,000 responses and we'll publish these alongside independent analysis next year. By creating a National Care Service, we hope to end the postcode lottery care provision across Scotland, ensuring quality, fairness and consistency of provision through the setting of national standards. The pandemic has highlighted that people hold Scottish ministers accountable for social care. That's not unreasonable, given the large amounts of public funding for social care and its importance to people's lives. Local government are really important partners in delivering social care currently, and they'll remain so as we develop new ways to deliver improved and consistent standards of care. There'll continue to be strong local accountability through the proposed community health and social care boards, which we have in place. I think that's probably all I'll say on that, because we're still at quite early stages. Really exciting, big change for Scotland, big change for the way that we work as health and social care. So our strategy that I talked about earlier has to take cognizance of that and what it will mean for our partners throughout Scotland. So lots of work ahead, really exciting, but I think more for me, the sheer benefits for the public are huge. I just want to kind of finish off by saying I'm so very proud to be the Chief People Officer. I'm also really proud to be an HR professional. I've been one for 25 years and I always want to be one. I still worry and I have doubts, but I'll always continue to collaborate with people, to empower them and believe in them to do the best job that they can do. I'll champion the importance of relationships. I'll ask that we all champion our values and continue to be role models for our profession. I know I'm probably finishing earlier than I intended to, but I just want to say thank you so much for listening. Thank you for inviting me along to speak today. It's been lovely to share for me, which is a kind of honest reflection of what it was like to move into civil service post when I've traditionally worked in a health service. And I think I was unprepared, I was naive, and some of my traditional ways of working did not work. And so I just wanted to kind of share that as a leader, in my earlier career, I thought our senior leaders knew all the answers. I thought when I watched them speak at conference, I was so impressed. And I was always like, how will I ever get to know that much information? And then you go through career, and then you find that you gather information as you go. You get well informed by others. But for me, the one thing is you don't have to know it all. And you're not expected to, because there are experts throughout our industry who can help inform and shape better than I can. And I'm happy with that. And so I think the one thing that I've learned is be true to yourself. It's really important, and when things are difficult, I can't stress that enough. The comments I had fed back to me, which really resonated, that people loved that I was being me. I wasn't trying to change, and I was being as honest as I could with the politics of certain situations. And I always want to be, and it's the way I work. I think I bring myself to work. I know what I can do in that space, and that's what allows me to sleep well at night. And I'm still learning. And I look forward to kind of hearing today from other speakers that I continue to learn from. But I'll probably be quiet now. And if anyone has any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
David, thank you so much. And the response as you've been talking has been incredible from those listening. Real comments and a real warmth for you around how you have spoken candidly today, and with passion, but also given such an honest account, which a lot of people are saying they find assuring that actually, this polished performance that we see so often from our senior leads, it's almost reassuring to know that their legs are flapping below the desk as well. So thank you so much. We've got some great questions coming in for you, if you can stick around, and we'll throw some of those at you now, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, happy to.
Brilliant. So Victoria Downing-Byrne from Bath has asked a couple of questions. And the first one is, so what advice would you give to that new director standing at the security gate waiting to be let in? What would be your best advice for that new person?
That's a good question. I suppose the one thing I would say is you've got this. So you were chosen for that job based on your skills and the experience and what the people appointing you thought you could do and believed in you to be able to do it. And I think that's the one thing for me that's easy to forget. I think that you didn't just walk in first day, off the street. Actually, people have taken the time to speak with you, to hear your ideas and believe that you can do something in that space. And so confidence is a funny thing. You could be riding high one day, something happens and it gets really affected, and it affects all of us. And I think from there, but that's for me is to go, others believe in you. And so you believe in yourself because you can do it. And actually, we all have doubts, but just remember that actually you're there to do the job. Remember your skill set, remember what you do, and remember your ideas and vision for that sort of thing, because that is key. People will always like to have a view about various different things, but actually remembering yourself what you want to do as you stand there in a reception. What do I want to achieve? And actually for me, I'm only getting to some of the stuff I really want to achieve in the role now. So the stuff about the profession is that's what I've been wanting to do for ages. But first year was pandemic fighting with workforce and I suppose learning and growing a new role in that space. So now I can sit here and go, I know what I want to do. I remember why I wanted the job. I remember where I see I can do. And now I'm getting the real opportunity with proper support behind me as well to do that. So for me, yeah, so that's it. That's what I'd say. Just remember you can do it and others believe you can do it as well. And that's why you're there.
Thank you. And you talked about the warmth of the people professionals sort of allowing you to survive and thrive, really. But someone's asked, who made the greatest impact on you during the pandemic, and why would that be?
That's a good question. I would probably say the chief exec for NHS Scotland at the time made the biggest impact on me. And the reason I say that is he was quite a formidable guy. And I'd met him in person before I started, but we hadn't worked that closely together. And so I knew him by reputation as, he's very results focused, he works at pace. And so I remember being a little intimidated. So when he phoned me on a Saturday morning. I was I think the first couple of weeks, I just had eaten my breakfast. And he said, that submission you've done to the Cabinet Secretary, what was in it? And I said, have you not read it? He's like, no, I need you to tell me what was in it and actually why is someone not happy? And so I was like, oh dear. And so actually, we were able to work through that and get it resolved. And that was about the setting up of the contact centre at the start. And it was just, when I saw how he worked, how he got things done quickly, how his mind worked and what he expected from others and what he expected from me in that space. But actually, and what I in turn brought to him, I would like to think, is you're very service, and it's all about how we can get the flow of the system working better. For me, I'm all about the people, and actually how we can help to kind of work with them and get the most out of them. And actually, through that, I think what combined really well together, and for him probably not knowing much about me to the end before he retired, he gave me like a lovely kind of end of year praise, his thoughts and where he felt I'd added value. And so when I look back, he was his way of working, how he saw the whole system across Scotland. So for me, I'm used to working on one board and actually in dealing with the problems, which I find all-consuming often, and then to actually look whole country and how to do it. I remember thinking my head struggled to get initially around that, but actually now I can do it, and it's actually a lot easier, I find, looking nationally at the whole picture than it is individually, strangely. So he had a big impact on me, and actually now I would think about issues, his words are in my ear.
So he stayed with you.
Stays with me, sadly, sometimes.
Fantastic. We've had another question, because as you talked about the future and what your plans and intentions are going forwards, and someone's asked around the strategy work that you introduced, saying, are there any plans to work collaboratively with the NHS, but social care? You mentioned working with Tom Simons, but could you elaborate a little bit on that, and particularly with the social care slant?
So with Tom, I think, so we've been in discussion for months, actually, and just sharing ideas, what's working, what's not working as well in workforce context, to see how we can try and help in different spaces. Tom was also, he was like happy to share kind of thoughts of the direction of what was happening with the profession, asking for my input, what I thought around about it. And I mean, I was hugely impressed with that sort of thing from there. So I suppose with that continued work, he's asked if if we move forward, I would be happy to, to be involved externally, to kind of cast an eye or to be a voice of help in that space. And so I would be happy to do that. We're still forming what that might exactly be, but I'm, as I say, I'm delighted to kind of be involved and learn as well. I mean, that's the thing for me. I'm not saying we know everything, we absolutely don't. Around the social care and strategy, yes. I think the one thing and it's strange saying it, but the one thing we've really seen is how connected everything is. So, and where a lot of the blockages have, so we have A&E issues, and actually because we don't have the beds for the patients because they're filled with people who can't get out into care. And so the whole thing, I think during the pandemic, and it's funny, everyone said they knew it, but actually it really exposed the whole system together, how it needs to work far better and far more joined up than it did. And we've been integrating we've been putting support in, hiring people through the NHS to go and work in social care sort of thing to really help the workforce, which is struggling in the social care sector, as is in the NHS, to be fair. But that's so how the strategy is, and actually with the National Care Service, how that has to be far more joined up is what we really need to work through all the detail. But it came together. It's come together for all, I would say, all our senior leaders in Scotland, who would say they knew it all the time. But it was funny, everyone knew it, but they weren't fixing. And I think that's a bit for us when we look at it now. Actually, we've got a real, so everyone's seen it at, during some terrible times, actually, that actually when we see now, it needs to be better, it needs to flow better, and it's like, so we are all in this together. And so it's, for me, it needs to be far more joined up and smooth. And when I think of it, smooth for our patients, when you come in, actually, it just needs to be, it should feel connected. And if it doesn't, something's wrong. And we know it doesn't always feel connected.
Yeah. Thank you. I am going to squeeze one last question in, and I think it's a fabulous one. You've expressed your gratitude to the people profession and also your commitment to people professionals and their growth and development. And Paul Beale from Insightful Exchange has asked, how can we support each other and learn together on the challenges of the culture change journey as people professionals? You know, how do we support one another going forwards?
I think, I mean, well, events like this are helpful. I think the one thing we can do, I think, I mean, the way we've started to work virtually over the past kind of 18 months and everything, and has opened up, I think, connections. Some people will have been doing them already, others less so. And I think it's about, I think, honesty. I think honesty is a big thing. So, and I'll say this, and I must say this as an HR professional of 25 years, that I've been to lots of events and I always hear how wonderful everything is in HR. And you know what? Sometimes it's not wonderful. Sometimes it's really difficult and messy, and it can feel quite lonely at times. And that's the bit for me that I think how we reach everyone across the profession and we share. I think honestly, when we're talking about culture change is tough. It takes a while. Not everyone, people say they buy into it, and they pretend. Obviously, they're pretending a little. And so, for me, I think it's how we share when things really work. We also share when things haven't gone as well, and we be quite honest about it. And we shouldn't shy away from it, because I think that learning is invaluable. It's invaluable for us in career, and that should help us as we move forward. But also, I think it's for me, and it might be just me, but for what works for me, I like when people share, you know, like wonderful things that worked well, but also like when they share when they go, you know, I just really struggled with this, and this is what I tried. I thought this was my traditional approach that worked, and it's going really badly. And so, and then go help. And so I love that. And my whole thing is like with HR professionals in Scotland, part of my thing to be honest and truthful is one, it's me, but the other thing is that I want people to come to me when things aren't going as well early, rather than wait until it's gone quite badly wrong. So people feel trust that they can come forward, and it's difficult when you go to government and say, you know what, we're struggling with this. You would worry about that. And I said, listen, my role is to actually be a facilitator, to help, and actually to give an external view. If we need to bring other help, and we can do it. This isn't judgment. This is just how we want to do as a profession so we can help best. So for me, I think, yeah, just being open and honest, using the online resources that are there, I think very much so. And I think just remember, no one's finished on that journey. As a people professional, we are learning all the time, and yeah, just be true to yourself.
David, thank you so much. I know so many people have enjoyed your presentation today, and the honesty and your candid approach. Really appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for listening, everyone.
Thank you.